Hello everybody, welcome to the presentation on my autoethnography, studying the literacy events that happen in my day-to-day life this week. Alright, so these are some literacy events that happen in my day-to-day life. So reading for school, texting friends, writing for school, writing down people's orders at work, reading movie subtitles, and reading books. So reading for school is one of the bigger portions of the literacy events that happen in my day-to-day life because being a full-time student with 6 classes, I do have a lot that I have to read, whether that is reading instructions from the teacher, reading a paper, or reading the class's book that I have to read. So that makes up a very huge portion of the literacy events that happen. Texting friends is a little portion because I'm not doing that as much as I'm reading for school, but it does happen in my day-to-day life. So writing for school is a lot like reading for school because when I read something, I usually have to write about it as well. So writing also has a huge portion of my literacy events that happen in my day-to-day life because after I read, I have to write papers, write for my homework assignments, or write any questions that I have. Writing down people's orders at work is not a big event because it happens only 2 times a week because I only work 2 times a week, but it still happened in my week that I studied myself, so I chose to include it. Reading movie subtitles also usually happens in my day-to-day life because me and my family, we usually watch a movie during the day or at night, and we have the movie subtitles on usually, and that happens every day. So, and then reading books, I like to kind of get away from reading the school books at night, and I like to read my own books that I don't have to read for school. So, and here I've included a picture of my biology notebook, and this was half of a lesson that we were taught, and this kind of shows all of the writing that I had to do for this half of a lesson, because you can see that almost 2 pages are full here, and that was just for half a lesson. So I do a lot of writing during the day, so you can see how much time it actually takes up during my day. The amount of time for each activity differs on a daily basis, but the numbers that you'll see here are kind of averaged out to what I think that I did for each day. So reading for school, I put 6 hours because I have 6 different classes, and I average about an hour or less for each class. So 6 seems like a really big number, but when you have 6 classes and you have to read a lot for each class, it adds up pretty quickly. So I put 6 hours for that one. Texting friends, I did 2 hours for because I do text on a steady basis throughout the day, and it's not just a 2-hour time period where I'm texting for that entire time constantly for 2 hours. It's kind of just throughout the day, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. So that's not a full 2 hours of constantly texting. It's spread out throughout the day. Writing for school, I also did 6 hours for because usually when I have to read something, I have to write something, and 6 hours is the 6 different classes, an hour or less of writing for each class. So those 2 things by themselves take up a huge portion of the day. Writing down people's orders at work is something that's not a huge portion of the day, but since I only have 2 shifts during the week, I put down 3 hours because usually my shifts are 6 hours, and I think I would spend about half of that writing down people's orders and then reading them back. So there's a lot of literacy involved with that. reading movie subtitles is, I put 1.5 to 2 hours because this depends also on the movie that you're watching, and it depends on if you're watching a TV show or a movie, then that time really differs as well. But movies are typically in 1.5 to 2 hours, so I just put that as an average for reading movie subtitles. And then reading books, I usually read an hour before I go to bed, so that's what I put there. And this is the book that I'm reading. It's Secretariat by William Knack. So that's just an example of what I read. And then this is my planner that I use to write down all my homework assignments. So again, writing for school is a very big portion of my literacy events that happen daily. This is a chart that I used, or that I made using Google spreadsheets. So it kind of just shows day versus night and how much literacy I use. So you can see this square right here is the night, and this darker square is the daytime. And you can see that the day is much more, I use much more literacy during the day and then during the night, and that would make sense because during the day I have those big portions of writing for school and reading for school, so that definitely takes up a lot of the day. And then the nighttime, I still get hours from watching the movies and reading the subtitles from those and texting friends and then reading before I go to bed. So I still get some time in at night of literacy. And what did I learn about my literacy habits? That was kind of the big question that we're trying to answer is what did you learn by doing this? So there's a few things that I learned. One of them is how much I actually use literacy throughout the week and throughout the day. You don't really think about when you're using literacy unless it's for a school project. So, for example, like if you were reading a paper or writing a paper for school, then you would think that you're using literacy, and your teacher may say you're using literacy for this. But when you're just home and you're actually studying yourself doing literacy besides just being in school, you actually figure out how much you use during the day when you think you're not even using it or don't even know that you're using it. You definitely use literacy more in the daytime, but I learned that you use it throughout the entire day instead of just the daytime, because I never would have thought that, or I don't think that I continue to use literacy outside of school, like reading and writing, but I definitely do, like watching movies, for example, with subtitles and texting friends. You just don't think about that as literacy. You just think of that as a normal day-to-day thing. You use it, the last thing I learned is that you use it in different ways. You use literacy in different ways. So reading and writing is obviously different, but you use it in a more proper way when you're doing one thing like writing a paper, and you use it in texting just kind of sloppy. And so there's different ways that you can use literacy throughout the day, and those ways definitely are just different. So that is my autoethnography. Thanks.